What's your assessment of just the overtime final play? What happened? What went wrong?
We knew what they were going to play. They played like a red 7, which is like a bracket coverage down there. And we were high-lowing it wasn't like a safety, but it's like people across the board, right? So Malley pushes out, comes back in, and JoJo's over the top. We're high-lowing that guy. The ball should be on Malley a little quicker. And so he kept tracing. I think Malley thought he was scrambling, so he headed up the field, and Carson thought he was going to stay flat. And so, it was just one of them things. I mean, really, the ball probably should have went to JoJo, really, but he was unavailable at the time. I don't know. I don't know how else to. He was unavailable.
What do you mean?
Wasn't available. You can watch the clip.
Yeah. He was
unavailable.
The play before that,
Yeah.
you open a monster hole on the left side, and Marty just couldn't see it. FSU, the Louisville game, the route and flat fell apart. When you guys look at this, you're losing games by razor thin margins.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that as a coach?
It's hard, but ultimately, games across the nation are tight. You look at them and games are won by 1 or 2 plays. I mean, I can go through that game, brother, and I can point out 3 plays that could cost you the game. We didn't get 2 short yardages, but if we get them, we probably have a good chance to win. The pick, backed up that gave them the touchdown. Like if we just punt there and they have to drive the field, like it's margins, it's very thin. Some of it's just bad luck that you have a hard time wrapping your head around, but you can't harp on it. You got to move on. It is what football is. Football is played with an oblong ball that doesn't necessarily bounce straight, so sometimes you're going to get the bounces and sometimes you're not. And so we just didn't get a lot of breaks that game, and we didn't do a lot to deserve it either. I mean, we had 9 penalties on offense and 5 drops, and so that's hard to overcome. I mean, I never felt like we had a problem moving the ball. It was just shooting ourselves in the foot. We had no 3 and outs. We had the ball backed up quite a bit, and we got the ball out. But then when we would get it, like in a certain area, we'd have a drop that would be the difference between a 3rd and 2 and a 3rd and 10. That's a big difference, then we would, have a penalty. And so it's hard to overcome those things all the time. You can overcome a few of them, but it's hard to overcome them. So the theme that I'm trying to tell you guys is we have to quit shooting ourselves in the foot. We got to play a little bit more relaxed and just loosen up and just quit shooting ourselves in the foot, because it has nothing to do with anything else. I mean, honestly, it's hard to say this out loud, but I wasn't displeased with a lot in the game. I was displeased with the self-inflicted stuff. You know what I mean?
With that self-inflicted stuff, like the pre-snap penalties and stuff, with only a month left in the season, how do you get in there and address that? Do you simulate it more? Do you work on it?
We simulated it a ton. I think at some point we have very accountable kids and we have very accountable coaches. I mean, nobody's shying away from accountability. I know I got to do my job better. I know if I do my job better, we win the game. Like, I have no issue bearing the burden of that. When you have people in the room and you have people in the organization that have the care factor that we have, you don't have to harp on it as much as you think. They know. We know. And so ultimately, at some point too, if you push it past a certain line, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's where I don't want to go with it. I don't want to make it a bigger deal than what it is. I mean, there's probably, and you can do the stats, Gary, you love stats. So there's more false starts, pre-snap penalties this year in college football than I've seen across the board. There just is. I watch college football when I get home, and it seems like, there's just an abundance of pre-snap penalties. Now, we're having our fair share of them, and we got to correct that, and we got to get that course corrected. And we are addressing it with multiple issues, and I'm not going to sit here and lay that out because that's just not appropriate for the game. But there will be changes that are made, and I think that will reflect you know, some positives, but we have to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. And one thing about just not to cut you off, but the false starts, we overcame every one of them. Every false start, we ended up getting first downs and moving the ball. There were other things we didn't overcome. And it really, as aesthetically unpleasing as that looks, it didn't cost us the way I viewed the game. Like when I watched the game, I watched things that cost us. You know, although I hate it and we got to get it fixed, I get it. It didn't necessarily stop drives. Other things did.
What are those other things? Sorry, if you could elaborate, what are the other things you're talking about?
The drop balls stopped more drives than the false starts. You know, the drop balls we had to punt every time. You know, every single drop ball cost us a punt. You know, and the holding penalties cost more than the false start penalties.
Mario told us that CJ's going to be a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And he indicated that Mark, we don't know, but he didn't sound particularly optimistic. When you're potentially going to be down, you're starting running back, and I mean, I know other guys have to step up.
Yeah.
Without CJ, how much does that affect your sheet in that there is a difference between the 1 and 2?
It is.
Sometimes. How does that change your approach going into the week?
It will. I mean, you always look at who's available, you know, but you have to lay out a plan based on, you know, the people that are available and the defense you're playing. Like schematically, the defense matters a lot because what they've done in the past, you have to pattern what you do after that. You can't run nonsense plays over certain coverages that they run or whatever. So that matters. The people available matter, but I will say this, you know, I have confidence in those people in that room. Now, whether they've played a lot of snaps or not, it's no different than JoJo. I mean, JoJo goes in there Saturday and really makes some really great plays for us. You know, he had some unfortunate things happen, which we all do. I mean, look, there's some calls I want back too. I in no way, you know, I've never called a perfect game, and I never will. If people are expecting that, then I don't know what to tell them. And so there's going to be plays that I want back. You know, and there's going to be plays that players want back. There's plays that Carson wants back. Ultimately, you hope that those plays don't cost you the game. And so, but I do have a high amount of trust in people that are in backup roles right now, and I'm excited to watch some of those guys play. I really am.
You probably know that you had a bit of a viral moment Saturday.
Oh yeah.
I know in that moment you're not thinking about what the heck people are going to say about it 2 days later, but when you are not in the booth, when you're on the field especially, when people have more of a line of sight on you, does it ever enter into a coach's mindset of just, you can't sometimes react the way you want to? And again, people can look at that and immediately draw the wrong conclusion as to what
Well, I'm going to lay it out pretty simple. I pride myself on staying even keeled through the hardest times. I wasn't like that as a young coach. I'll be, you know, very blunt with saying that, you know, I was a lot more animated 20 years ago, 25 years ago than I am today. Over time, you realize that bringing more stress to an already stressful situation isn't necessarily the best approach, you know. And I've dealt with that through my career, and now at this point in my career, regardless of how bad things are going, you're probably going to see the same type demeanor from me. Now, in that particular situation, it had nothing to do with the crazy thing about that. Our interaction, me and Coach Cristobal, it had nothing to do with that. I was talking into the headset, very upset about not getting a yard. That was simply that. I was like, we need to get the damn yard. You know, and we both agreed. That's why I promise you this, there's two things. One is I was raised right by parents, and I would never disrespect authority, never. You know, I serve a higher authority that I understand hierarchy of authority. I would never disrespect authority behind closed doors or even out in the public. With that being said, if I ever did something like that, you probably would see a reaction from him. The reason he didn't react is it wasn't directed to him. It was directed towards frustration about not getting a yard. And so that's the clear part of it, is like I would never disrespect authority.
To be fair, I think those of us that have gotten to know you a little bit
Yeah, I mean,
have a pretty good idea of what was happening.
yeah. I mean, and people can come up with whatever narrative they want. I'm fine with that too. I mean, I don't really I haven't looked at Twitter, so I have friends that have texted me, and I was like, yeah, I said, this is what happened, you know what I mean? But I don't typically pay too much attention to the Twitter warriors out there that know everything.
In short yardage, I think you guys were three of 6.
Yeah, was it? I think we didn't get 2, right? Or was it 3?
I don't know.
Okay.
But what is a acceptable
100%.
yardage?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, when it's 1 yard, it needs to be 100%. Now, they're good at short yardage. I knew that going into the game. They were oddly good at short yardage. And so they were at about a 50-something% clip at short yardage, right? And so I knew that their defense was good at short yardage. So I did have a couple wrinkles that I was going to go to if I felt like we were having real trouble. But through the course of the game at the beginning, we were getting them. We snuck one. We went, like, there was about the 3 or 4 that happened first, we got. And in the fourth quarter, that particular one down there going into the opposite end zone, there was a timeout call. And so I had a certain play called. I probably overthought it, to be honest with you. And this is just facts. I trust our big guys up front. You know, I really do. And I trust them to get a yard. I trust our running backs to get a yard. And statistically speaking, you know, everybody's skewed on short yardage to run the ball. Like, you can look at everybody's short yardage. I mean, you're going to throw it a couple times, but you're probably going to run it more than any, right? And so there's always plays I go back and like, man, I wish I would have done that there when they don't work. Does that make sense? Like, and I go back to the Georgia Tech game last year and we ran Spider and they covered it on 4th and 1. And if I would have just ran the damn ball right there, we'd probably win the game. And so it's always easy after you know what happened. And the reality is everybody out there that has a certain opinion is allowed to have that opinion after the fact. I'm not. I have to make a decision within seconds and live with the results. And so ultimately, I made the decision based on how I felt this team is made up. And I think we're elite up front. Elite. And I'm going to lean on those guys in those situations, and I think they respect that. And so, was it the right or wrong call? Obviously, it was a wrong call because it didn't work. That specific play, we ran 4 times that day, and I think it got 10 yards every time, and it got none that time, to put it in the framework for you. So,
In kind of the
Two
same,
more questions.
kind of the same vein, like, how do you balance, like you said, like they're good at stopping short runs, you guys have been good at getting short runs. How do you balance, like if you, like you said, you did it a few times earlier in the game, it works. How do you balance being, you know, going to the well again with something that has worked versus, you know, potentially being too predictable, I guess?
yeah, I mean, look, it's decisions. It's based on feel a lot of times. I mean, I call games on gut most of the time. It's so no different than when we got down in the third quarter. I think they got the ball first and went and scored, and then we got the ball first and didn't have a penalty or anything and went down there and scored, which is typically what happened when we didn't shoot ourselves in the foot. We drove the field. But that obviously, you know, there was very few drives that we didn't shoot ourselves in the foot. But we got down like on the 3-yard line, and I threw just the tight end in the back of the end zone because I knew, like, hey, you know, going into that situation, they're pretty good up front. But in that situation, I have a down after that. I have another down after that.
Yeah.
In those situations, I don't. And so the decision becomes a little bit more friction-based when you don't have a down the next down. I got to be right, you know. And so when you do make those decisions to throw it in those situations, the gravity of those decisions are a little heavier, you know. Now, I'm very comfortable throwing it in those situations, you know, but the times in my life where I've thrown it the most in those situations, I haven't had the O-line I have sitting in this room. And so I always go back in full circle to, man, we're built big, we're built strong. It just so happened that we didn't get it on those couple times. I mean, we are, minus this game, you know, and this played a part in it, just to be clear, our short yardage efficiency was one of the best in the country. And it just so happened we didn't get that.
Last year, you were 55, 56% pass, 44, 45% rush.
Yeah.
This year, it's like 52, 48 run. Is it?
That's not much different, is it?
No, it's not much. Well, no, it's not. But,
Just making sure.
you know, I'm just, clearly it's not. So, you know, want to play a quarter race, that's all it is.
Yeah.
how important is it to be balanced? We hear all the time that you gotta be able to do both, obviously.
Yeah.
Unless you're Air Force or Navy, that's very different, of course, but.
Wise words.
Is it more of a conscious thing I mean, sometimes, like you said, you call plays like that, and you're not sitting there saying, okay, I just ran it, now I got to throw it to even it out, but how important is it to be as close to 50-50 as you can get?
I don't-
Particularly when you are built as big as this team.
Yeah, I don't view it as 50-50. I really view it as what's working and what they're trying to take away. And so if they're going to sit there and play cover 2 the whole game, then running the ball every time is the smart thing to do. And if they're going to sit there and have an extra guy down, then throwing it every time is the smart thing to do. So to me, balance is more in, is the ball getting spread around? To go back to your option, you said something about option football, right? Option football to me is a beautiful thing because the ball kind of gets spread around a lot, you know? And so our offense years ago, the true air raid was kind of stemmed from that mentality. It's like, hey, let's get the ball to a lot of people a lot of different ways. And so if you look at our offense, that's why I throw the ball in the flats a lot. Because ultimately, I view that as run game. Like I view that as like extensions of run game. So it's just ways to get certain people touches. And sometimes they work out and sometimes they get tackled for a 1-yard gain. And I don't really care because it makes them track the field and tackle the guy, you know, with the ball. And so those decisions are more box related. So most of our run game has the ability to spit the ball out at some point, you know, whether it's a glance or a hitch or somebody going in the flats. So I kind of view that as triple option football. That's our way of running triple option. Now, Carson actually kept it in the game Saturday and got like 10 yards. Well, that's great. We need to do that more, you know. And so our run game isn't always, hey, we're going to hand it no matter what. Now, sometimes it is. But the majority of the first and second down run game is not wired that way because there's throws that could be made. Now, a lot of times you go back and look and you're like, man, we had that, probably should do it there, hand it here. Those are decisions that are always a little gray at times because there's people in those windows or whatnot. And so those decisions, it would be interesting if you went back to your statistical data that you went. And so I did this years ago, was like pass versus run. That's an easy one to look at, right? But sometimes, like you take all those passes from last year and this year, it's about the same, right? 50% or a little, the pie's shifted one way or the other. But out of that 50% of passes, how many of them were on protection? How many of them were on run game? That would be probably, that would tilt the stats a little bit more into understanding how balls get spread around. Because I would guarantee you that, you know, there was probably a little bit more last year of run game, you know? And so that's just the way it is. It's the way the flow of football happens. Now, I know we got to do a lot better in a lot of areas of offense, and everybody thinks we forgot how to coach offense, and I get it. Like, everybody's frustrated, and we suck. I'm well aware of our situation.
You are on Twitter.
I get told. My wife tells me what everybody's typing. And so, yeah. So she loves it. She gets a lot of entertainment of reading everybody's stuff, and so she knows how bad of a football coach I am at this point. And so it's easy. But you lost my train of thought. I don't know where I was going with that.
You were politely telling me that stats are, that I look at stats too much, I think.
No, I love stats. The stats are good. Sometimes they're misleading, is what I would say. What I was going to say, and I know what I'm going to say now, statistically, you take a deep dive into who we are as an offense. We're, 30-something in the nation or 40th in the nation in scoring in offense, which is average, a little above average, but not great, right? The couple things we're, pass protection-wise, we're kind of elite. Like we give up, like I think we're 2 in the nation or 3. Negative yards played, I think we're 2 in the nation. We don't have a lot of negative plays. I mean, that stuff to me, like when you ask me about like going for it on 4th down and run versus pass, I mean, the efficiency of those guys factors in more than, hey, I want to be a cowboy here and do something that gets put on Twitter. I could care less about that, I think our big guys up front need to be, rewarded with, hey, let's get a damn yard, and I trust you guys, and I love you guys, and so. You got a question? Or are you fixing your shirt?
I
Yeah.
don't
Well,
know.
I do have a question.
All right, go ahead.
So design trading was hot in the first half.
Do I know?
JoJo trading was hot in the first half, 4 for 84. What went into him only getting one target in the second half?
Nothing, I mean, you can read a lot into that. The fact is that plays are called and progressions take the quarterback to the receiver, you know? And so if you look at the touchdown he got, he could have threw it to Josh. I mean, we ran vertical switch on both sides, which Carson checked out, which was a doubles play, and he checked it. I can't take credit for that call. He checked it. So, but over here on the left side, he could have ripped Josh up the hash, and he probably initially should have. But when he looked over there, the safety tracked that way, so he went to JoJo. So the safety took the ball to JoJo. If the safety would have went that way, Josh would have got that touchdown. And so I think to answer your question in the most straightforward way, I don't think there's no pass play I call and tell Carson, hey, you throw it to JoJo on this play, or you throw it to Josh on this play. It's not our offensive program. Our offensive program is I call a play, and Carson's eyes are bam, 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 and the open guy gets the ball, you know? And so there's going to be times through the course of the game where people get touches in abundance, and there's going to be times where they don't. It's just the flow of the game. And so I could argue the fact that, like, JoJo might have gotten, I don't know this, I'm just throwing it out there, but other people probably wasn't getting touches early. And the question should be, why wouldn't they? Right? Does that make sense? Because if you're going to ask, like, well, he got touches here, but he didn't get touches there, well, the other guys didn't get touches there, and they got touches there. So the question could be flipped around very easily. Does that make sense?
Well, I think production changes it, right? I think because he was so
Production changes with the defense does.
Okay, so the defense changed?
I would say that when somebody's getting targeted a lot, the defense is going to sit there and say, hey, we probably need to guard that guy. And then the ball is going to go to other people because other people were open. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.